Moderate call because you're coming through, otherwise let them hate.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Welcome to the relaunch event of the European Hydrogen Observatory. My name is Eline Brugman and I'm leading the sustainability offerings at Deloitte, Belgium. And today we are delighted to actually unveil and walk you through the new relaunched European Hydrogen Observatory. It's formerly known as the Fuel Cells and Hydrogen Observatory. The European Hydrogen Observatory is managed by the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, also known as the Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking, under public procurement with Deloitte. And it's part of the EU's efforts to promote clean and sustainable energy solutions and to support the transition towards a low-carbon economy. The main mission of the Hydrogen Observatory is to collect open, comprehensive and up-to-date data about the European hydrogen sectors from various sources, but also to share this information in a user-friendly and accessible manner. It also has an objective to promote transparency, to share best practices, and facilitate informed decision-making regarding hydrogen technologies, economics, and policies amongst policymakers, industry players, researchers, opinion leaders, and the general public. In other words, we want to position the European Hydrogen Observatory as the one-stop shop for reliable information on hydrogen. Now, before we dive into the discussions, and we have some eminent speakers lined up for you, we also want to introduce to you the agenda of today. And as you can see on the slide, first and foremost, we will have some keynote sessions featuring renowned speakers that I will introduce to you in just a minute. After that, the Deloitte team will get you behind the revamped European Hydrogen Observatory and will walk you through the new design, the content, the functionalities, and the architecture of the observatory. It will be the opportunity for you to discover how the European Hydrogen Observatory can help you access up-to-date data and information on the hydrogen market, research and innovation, and the policy ecosystem in Europe. Thirdly, we are delighted to welcome some guests, both from the International Energy Agency, Hydrogen Europe, but also representatives from the academia to share their perspectives on interacting and collaborating with the European Hydrogen Observatory. And last but not least, we also want to give you the floor. Please do give me your questions. You can use the chat function and we will devote some time at the end of the sessions to answer all your questions. For your information, we are also recording this session and we will make it available on the observatory for future reference. So with further ado, let me first introduce to you our distinguished guests. First one up is Ms. Rosalinde van der Vlies. She is the director of the Clean Planet Directorate in the European Commission's Directorate General for Research and Innovation and has worked on a lot of environmental topics for the European Commission. Secondly, we have Mr. Stephen Jackson. He's the Deputy CEO and Chief Technology and Market Officer at Hydrogen Europe, a partnership covering more than 400 members on the private sector throughout the hydrogen value chain. And then we also welcome Ms. Mirela Atanasiu, who is the Executive Director at Interim of the Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking, also known as the Clean Hydrogen Partnership. Welcome to you all. Let me first start with Ms. van der Vlies. Ms. van der Vlies, could you please share with us why the observatory is such an important vehicle for the Commission supporting the energy and climate agenda? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much and good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure for me to be here with you this morning. I would be very happy indeed to say why, as a European Commission, we are so pleased with the relaunch of the European Hydrogen Observatory and also its new ambition. It's very clear that hydrogen is very, very high on our political agenda. One can say that it's really the cornerstone of the European Green Deal and of the EU's objectives to become the first climate neutral continent in the world by 2050. And you can really see that both from a regulatory perspective, but also from an investment perspective, the European Commission has been really supporting to move the hydrogen economy from a niche to really mainstream it and really accelerate the building of the hydrogen economy. So on the regulatory side, I mean, this is fully in line, of course, with our overall strategic documents. We have been supporting the hydrogen economy through various Fit for 55 related proposals, like the Renewable Energy Directive, which also includes specific targets for the use of renewable hydrogen in industry and transport. We have also been specifying clear rules on the definition of renewable hydrogen in 2 of the delegated acts stemming from the Renewable Energy Directive. And now we are extremely excited also on the financial side that we are establishing a European Hydrogen Bank. This is really a financial instrument supporting the production and offtake of renewable hydrogen for our European consumers. And I would really like to make a bit of publicity for our Hydrogen Week that will be taking place in November, because there will be then a very important moment on the 23rd of November when we will really be launching and kicking off the Hydrogen Bank. Now, also on the investment side, needless to say that the Commission is supporting the development of the hydrogen economy, not only through our research and innovation activities through Horizon Europe and the Clean Hydrogen Partnership that we are partnering together with Hydrogen Europe and Hydrogen Europe Research, but also through our programs that focus more on the deployment and scaling up of hydrogen solutions, in particular our Innovation Fund. So since the number of hydrogen projects and initiatives are literally exploding, of course, we need to have the appropriate tools to gather and organize all the information in a one-stop shop. And this is why the Commission is very, very supportive of this relaunch of the European Hydrogen Observatory, which basically will then also continue on the great work that has been done by the Fuel Cell and Hydrogen Observatory. And I believe that, of course, as people say, knowledge is power. And from the Commission side, we also attach very great importance to what we call science-based policy making. So I do believe that the observatory will play a very important role, not only to be informed and to have a common vision on the state of the hydrogen economy in Europe, but also then to provide the evidence base and the factual basis for further policy development. So, of course, it will be very important that the data that is available is accurate and also exhaustive. And I hope really that the observatory will gather all the information from the stakeholders and then also make it available to a very wide public. And that this observatory will really be seen and used as a one-stop shop for the industry, for the academia, for the policymakers. And I also hope there will be a very clear collaboration and exchange of information with other international organizations that are providing information on hydrogen, such as the European or the International Energy Agency. So I believe that we have a very, very strong basis now and also a very timely moment for relaunching this observatory. So I would like to conclude by just thanking everybody involved in this very important project. From the Commission side, as I said, we are very, very supportive. We will also be drawing the attention to the work of the observatory with the set plan community. This is the Strategic Energy Technology Community. By the end of October, the Commission will be launching a communication to revamp the set plan, the Strategic Energy Technology Plan. And obviously, because of the important role of hydrogen, we also plan to dedicate a new group, a new implementation working group to hydrogen. And there I hope that also the new set plan community on hydrogen can benefit from and contribute to this new European Hydrogen Observatory. So I will conclude here and just end again by thanking everybody involved and congratulating you for this relaunch of the observatory. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and also for your call to action in terms of contribution and use of the data that is made available. Then I would like to hand over to Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, Hydrogen Europe is a great contributor to the observatory. How is the observatory helping you and your over 400 private members across the hydrogen value chain in their endeavors to boost the hydrogen economy? Mr. Jackson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you today for the relaunch of the European Hydrogen Observatory. This is absolutely a key tool for the deployment of our sector, and we're a very proud partner of this project. I think just maybe a bit of context, putting hydrogen a bit in its global ecosystem. I think what's important to realize now is that what we've established is hydrogen is one of the key solutions for global decarbonization to meet our targets by 2030 and 2050, obviously in Europe, but also beyond. And I think that that is very well established, and the role of this project is very important in order to highlight that and actually deploy on the ground. Additionally, also, hydrogen is, ever since the war in Ukraine, is really seen as a solution for energy security. And I think it's very important for us to all realize how important hydrogen is to secure energy for Europe. And then finally, also, as competition globally increases and our market gradually starts deploying, I think it's important to realize that, well, the competition is on globally, and we are competing between different trading blocks. And the EU is very well positioned thanks to its early investment into hydrogen technologies. But basically, the global race is on. So that's a bit sort of the context. Then when it comes to the actual market and what we are and the direction we're taking, I think I will echo a few words Rosalinde mentioned. We're now getting clarity on the supply side with different targets on the production of domestic hydrogen, but also imported hydrogen. We're getting clarity on demand side targets, so getting an understanding of which sectors will use hydrogen for decarbonization. The definition as well of renewable hydrogen, so that's very important to set the requirements for renewable hydrogen production. We also need to work on the definition of low carbon hydrogen. So there is very much awaited gas decarbonization package, which is needed to kind of get all the requirements for the hydrogen ecosystem and on the production side specifically. So frankly, the development of our market and the regulatory framework is now going in the right direction. And we have more and more of the pieces of the puzzle in order to be successful. Yet, in order to deliver, we need to put much emphasis on infrastructure and infrastructure deployment, whether it be land or sea throughout Europe to connect supply and demand. We need to rapidly ramp up manufacturing of fuel cell and electrolyzer technologies, notably to compete internationally, as I mentioned, but also within the framework of NZIA, so the Net Zero Industry Act. And we need to mobilize all these different funding instruments, which Rosalinde alluded to, like the Innovation Fund, the IPCEIs, which are crucial for our deployment, but also the Hydrogen Bank, which is the market-making mechanism that will enable us to cover the cost gap. But needless to say that all of this cannot be done without data. And data is absolutely key because we need transparent, accurate, and accessible data for science-based policy making, but also to inform our business models and to ensure that our sector and the different projects that are on in the pipeline actually reach FID. So I think the work of this project is absolutely crucial, and we are a very proud participant of this project, and we really hope it will help deliver our ecosystem for the benefit of European citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jackson. And then last but not least, Ms. Atanasiu, the Clean Hydrogen Partnership initiated this relaunch of the Hydrogen Observatory. What is new in this relaunch, and why is it so important for the Clean Hydrogen Partnership to launch this initiative?
Good morning. Thank you very much for giving me the floor and for the indeed important question. I have to before I answer to the question, I have to just say that I'm extremely happy to be here today and to be able to relaunch this observatory. It's a lot of work behind this. And just to underline the fact that without repeating what Rosalinde or Stefan said, that data is extremely important for our sector. We really need to be able, not only on the technology side, to provide accurate data, but also on the deployment side, we need to provide comprehensive and up-to-date information. We also need to make sure that all the stakeholders are involved when talking about collecting data. And this is what the observatory is trying to get. And we will see later when we will walk through that we do not only talk about market data, but we go as far as talking about research and innovation related data, such as maybe trainings, education material, why not standards, policy-based situations in different member states. So this is where our observatory starts to be ambitious, if I can say, and I believe walking through today, it will show that it's possible to have such a one-stop shop tool for data. This observatory, now I'm taking the head of the Clean Hydrogen Partnership. It's extremely important for us. We started with it a few years back. It was called before Fuel Cell and Hydrogen Observatory, and with the relaunch today, we change also its name. So it's going to be called European Hydrogen Observatory. I have to underline the fact that it's European. This is its focus. Of course, we are very happy to work with our international partners in order to align the data when talking about data in Europe. But we also have to keep in mind that at least for the partnership and at least for the EU, it's even part of an even bigger plan, if you want. A plan that the partnership, the Clean Hydrogen JU, has to become the knowledge hub for hydrogen in Europe. As you may know, along the observatory, we also have the possibility to track that from technology monitoring. We do that with an internal tool, we call it Trust. And we also have our annual review of progress of the program of the technology against the KPIs that we set for the technology for 2030 and even 2050. In view of that, I can only be proud again that the observatory is able today to be relaunched, to gather this data, to complement the rest of the data. I can indeed confirm what Rosalinde also said, that the ambition is to go even to the level of even further to the level of the member states and work with a set plan, with the strategic energy technology plan, and with a newly Relaunch working group on hydrogen. And I'm pretty sure that we will succeed and we will be able again to have, like Stephen mentioned, transparent and accurate data for the sector from all parts. Like I said, technology, market, research and innovation, member states funding, everything that we want to gather into this knowledge hub. I will conclude now just by thanking very much the team. Like I said, it's a huge effort behind. I would like just to thank my team, my knowledge management team, very small but powerful, and on which we all depend. And I would like to thank Kostis, Petros for their effort to be here today. But also to the Deloitte team, I would like to thank you very much for the effort you did. And of course, to the Hydrogen Europe Intelligence Unit that supported with a lot of data, and we will see them presenting later. Really, thank you really very much. I wish you good luck. To the audience, please keep an eye on our observatory. Today it's just the beginning of the relaunch. You will hear from us in a very peace way with different reports. At every few months, we will release reports with data on hydrogen in Europe. So good luck. Have an excellent event and looking forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mirela, and thank you also for your support, and the same counts for all the contributors to this project. I think it was really a joint effort in collaborating very closely together against a tough timeline, Stefan. But I think that collaboration is key in everything we do with decarbonization and the hydrogen economy. And this is just one example of how we could do that. So thank you very much to all of you. And also thank you for supporting this initiative and the continuous efforts to support the energy and climate agenda, of course, with a focus on hydrogen. But now, let's, without further ado, reveal the new relaunched Hydrogen Observatory. And for that, I hand over the floor to the project manager leading this endeavor for us, Stefan Meert, who will, together with the team, introduce you the key features of the newly relaunched Hydrogen Observatory. The floor is yours, Stefan.
Thank you, Aline. Good morning, everyone. I have the pleasure of leading a team behind the screens of the new relaunch, working closely together with Mirela's team. You will see a few faces of the hardworking people behind the screens who've made it all happen. We will dive to the functionalities, we'll guide you to the website, and we'll have a better insight on the data that's already available. Before we do that, however, I would like to give the floor to our communications and design team, represented by Claudia. Claudia, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Stefan, for the introduction. I'm Claudia, I'm the communications lead here at Deloitte, and today we finally celebrate the launch of the European Hydrogen Observatory, and it is a result of months of dedication and innovation. The European Hydrogen Observatory, though, is more than just a name change. It really is a testament to our commitment to driving transformation and innovation towards a more sustainable and promising future. Our mission is to align our communications and content strategy with the European Hydrogen Observatory's vision. And we also work on social media to manage the digital presence of the Hydrogen Observatory. And our main goal is to engage with you, our global audience, and share our journey towards a greener future by crafting engaging content to share knowledge and inspire innovation within the clean hydrogen community. Our creative team spearheaded the logo redesign, drawing inspiration from nature itself. So the new logo symbolizes hydrogen's omnipresence in circular molecular structures, and the greens on one side represent our commitment to environmental preservation, while the blues signify the importance of harnessing clean energy and hydrogen. So the fusion of these colors in the logo encapsulate our vision and highlight the conscious and the research behind the whole community. We've also worked closely with the website and data team to create a more user-centric website, providing access to the most relevant research and insights globally. And beyond this, really, we act as the bridge connecting multipliers, key opinion leaders, and data providers, facilitating partnerships that drive progress and innovation. We invite you all to be part of our community and stay connected through our social media channels and newsletter, and hope you enjoy your journey as much as we enjoyed it. So I will pass on the mic now to Maria and Stijn for an overview of the website, and thank you very much. Enjoy the session.
So welcome to our first glimpse of the new European Hydrogen Observatory website. I'm a member of the Deloitte team that helped bring this website to life. Also with us today is my colleague from Deloitte, Pereira, who played a big role as architect and lead developer on this project and will be available to answer any technical questions later on. Until then, I'm honored to present to you for the very first time the revamped interface and exciting new features that await you as you navigate through the observatory. I'll just wait a little bit until I think you can see the screen now. So at this moment, if you can, I'll just wait maybe a few seconds for our team to share the website live. Otherwise, I'll move on. So I would like to share with you the homepage, but first I actually like to start our journey by exploring the menu options, where you'll discover a diverse range of topics pertaining to the hydrogen. So I can start by telling what you'll find. First and foremost, we offer an extensive section dedicated to the hydrogen landscape. Within you'll encounter curated information and data visualizations covering crucial topics such as production, trade, distribution, and then the use of hydrogen. Furthermore, we have introduced new and enhanced segments focusing on innovative subjects like technology manufacturing and transport application. In the second segment, we have a tools and reports section that provides you with the ability to peruse and download reports and data sets. And additionally, you will find tools for exploring future scenarios and a dynamic calculator to analyze production costs. Finally, we have a directory section, which is dedicated entirely to connecting you with the key players in Europe's hydrogen value chain, or a place for you as an organization working in hydrogen-related issues to be featured within this network. To disseminate knowledge about the hydrogen industry, we offer a dedicated Learn About Hydrogen menu item. Here you can access informative fact sheets ranging from the fundamentals to more in-depth topics. Moreover, we provide pages here where you can find educational materials and training programs that meet your interests. Furthermore, we have a dedicated media section where you can stay up to date with the latest news from the hydrogen world. And additionally, our events page can become your go-to source for tracking conferences, webinars, and other gatherings focusing on relevant hydrogen topics. Last, but certainly not least, within the About Us section, you can access contact information and explore a dedicated page highlighting the partners and contributors of the European Hydrogen Observatory. I hope by now you can share with me this moment and be seeing a homepage.
It's all working well.
Okay, great. Sorry. So here it is, our homepage. And now that we provided an overview of the content available on our website, let's just dive right into it. So on the homepage, your attention will be immediately drawn to a banner featuring highlights from the world of hydrogen. These highlights serve as a window into the significant releases, developments, and trends within the industry of hydrogen. Just below this banner, you'll discover a very engaging presentation of statistics. These interactive graphs allow you to delve deeper into the data, providing you with the flexibility to customize your exploration. For instance, you can easily filter out the data to suit your specific needs. You want to understand how hydrogen is used when ammonia is excluded. You can do that with a simple click. Moreover, you'll find direct links from here that lead you to pages dedicated to the topic of your interest. These pages are crafted to provide you with a comprehensive insights, offering you a deeper understanding of specific topics within the industry. So whether you're interested in production methods or diverse applications in transport sector, our homepage will serve you as a gateway to knowledge. It's here to empower you with information you seek and guide you on your journey through the dynamic world of hydrogen. As you scroll further down our homepage, you'll encounter a dedicated section designed to spotlight various components of our website. These components mirror some of the menu options we've previously explored, providing you with a quick and convenient access to key features and resources. For instance, you'll find direct links to explore geographic regions, stay at the forefront of hydrogen insights with links to the newest released reports, and a section on education and highlights that highlights the European Observatory quest for knowledge. By featuring these components on our webpage, we aim to make your browsing experience seamless and tailored to your interests. Either you're an industry expert seeking the latest reports, a newcomer eager to learn, an hydrogen enthusiast, or a policymaker, our homepage serves as your gateway to a wealth of information, all just a click away. Next, I would like to showcase the Learn About Hydrogen section, but allow me a moment to talk about data protection. European Hydrogen Observatory values our privacy in how it handles your data. To ensure the best user experience and to provide you with relevant content, we use cookies. Our detailed cookie policy can be found at the bottom of this page, where you'll find comprehensive information about types of cookies we use and their purposes. We respect your choices, which is why we offer you the option to tailor your cookie preferences. You can either accept all cookies for the full experience or select the specific categories to customize your preferences. Okay, so if you go into the hydrogen basics section through the Explorer fact sheet, you'll find 3 dedicated areas of knowledge. These 3 knowledge areas are designed to empower you with a deeper understanding of hydrogen's significance, its regulatory environment, and its practical applications through the value chain. The first section, Introduction to Hydrogen, serves as your gateway to understanding the fundamental aspects of hydrogen as an energy carrier, explore the basics, and delve into its role as a clean fuel. Either you're a newcomer to the world of hydrogen or seeking a comprehensive refresher, this is an area that offers you valuable insights into the core principles and possibilities of the hydrogen industry. Second, the policy and legislative landscape can guide you where you can gain valuable insights into the pivotal role that policy and legislation play in driving the development and widespread adoption of clean hydrogen technologies that are shaping the landscape. Here you can get informed about policies that are driving the transition to a sustainable hydrogen economy. And finally, in the hydrogen value chain section, you can find you can journey through the essential stages of the clean hydrogen value chain, from production to handling to end-use application. So from here, if you want to explore further, for instance, into hydrogen production, we have data visualizations in our hydrogen landscape section. And to explore these visuals, I'll pass the word back to Dr. Stijn Vercammen. Stijn, if you can please take it over from here.
Thank you so much, Maria. So indeed, dear guests, nice to be here with you. I'm excited to walk you through the core of the matter, let's say, the data insights that are captured in the observatory. So indeed, I'm Stijn Vercammen, the functional lead of the observatory. I will walk you through a selection of data sets and the dashboards that we've built on top of those to bring that data to life. So for each selected data set, I'll walk you through it, give you a glimpse on the data that's behind some functionalities and insights without going into the real depth of each data set. That is up to you to explore further. Before we do that, maybe some comments. So I'll show you these data sets, for example, for the hydrogen landscape. Please note that each data set is also available for a download which I will show you, but also Maria later on, where you can go into download the individual data sets. And actually you can explore further or make your own analysis if you wish. But let's dive into it. So the individual data sets, many of them listed here in the hydrogen landscape. And one of them, the first one on hydrogen production. So for example, production rate and cost, you have these 3. Hydrogen production, you can find it here. With a click of the button, you enter the corresponding page. So before going into the details of the actual page, let's take a look on how, oops, I will turn off because I was in incognito mode to show the cookies. I will return and then everything should work smoothly. So let's go into the hydrogen production one. So I will give you an overview on how the different web pages are typically built up. So first of all, we have a view on what is actually here, the data stream, what am I looking at from a data point of view. Then typically we have a dashboard with some statistical analysis and overview, a pane on the left-hand side with some filters, some toggles, where you can make a selection and customize your view. And then obviously at the center you have some key visuals, sometimes a map, some graphs that then represent the selected data, let's say. At the bottom often we have some notes, some key assumptions that are important to understand very well the interpretation of the data. And then at the bottom of the page you will find a possibility to download the dataset as I referred to earlier on. So in general, a comment, we've worked very hard, as has been explained already, to establish this, make everything come together. Should you have feedback on the data sets, whether it's things that you think might improve the reliability, things that you want to raise, don't hesitate to go to the feedback form. We're also happy to take a look into that. But at this moment, of course, we worked very hard, did a lot of testing, and made sure that the data is as complete and reliable as possible. So let's take a look into the hydrogen production one to start with. So hydrogen production, so this data set gives information, as you can see, on production capacity and output in Europe and specific EU27, also UK and the EFTA countries. The data sets give information on a country basis, but also on a plan-by-plan basis. More specifically, they give information on various production processes, namely reforming, hydrogen as a byproduct, reforming with carbon capture and water electrolysis. The latter two going more in the direction of the clean hydrogen economy production processes. So let's now take a look into the data. So what we see here is, well, in the overview, about 11.3 million ton is the capacity of hydrogen production today. Most of it, 99.5%, being into more traditional production process. So still a long way to go, but it's a good, let's say, at least a starting point, and then see where we are to date. If we go a bit further, we can see that, for example, Germany is the largest hydrogen producing country, at least from a capacity point of view, and we can also switch to the actual production output and then the data adapts. So what you can see here, if I hover for Germany, I find the specifics on the actual output, but also the production plants that are operational in Germany. If I now want to find some more details on a specific plant, I can place my cursor and zoom in, and then the map is loading. I can, for example, see here, here's a plant of Borealis where hydrogen is being produced for the production of ammonia. But I can just as well take a look at here, see here, okay, if it's a byproduct related to refining, and so on and so forth. So that's really what this dashboard is about and the insights that it brings. If I want to go back, I scroll out or I go on the home button to recenter, and then I can continue with my analysis. So let's continue. That was production. Let's move over to distribution and storage. On one hand, we have hydrogen pipelines, on the other hand, refueling stations. So I think it's also important to note in general that the data that we capture here in the landscape is really on things that are operational and not forward-looking. Or at least if we look forward, then we look at projects that are having a certain certainty of being realized. So having passed an FID stage, for example. Let's take a look into the hydrogen refueling stations. So what we see here is actually a full overview of publicly accessible and operational HRS in Europe. So on one hand, they are by location, and on the other hand, you find the dispenser type of the refueling stations. What we see here is that refueling station has been growing exponentially, in fact, until to date. We are having 178 refueling stations operational. If we take a look at, for example, within EU 27, it's 135. If you take what is going on in UK, it's another 9 of these. If I click, it just recalibrates and shows the overall overview. So if I now zoom in on a specific country, for example, Germany, and I would like to understand a bit better what's going on, we see that there's 96 refueling stations in Germany. If I can zoom in, it shows the location of the refueling station. I can, for example, go here, say, okay, who is the operator? What are the dispensers available? What is also interesting to show, and that's the color code, is that the colors indicate the dispenser type that's available. Here we can see that actually all of the refueling stations have a 700 bar dispenser type for cars, and about 1/3 of them have a 350 bar dispenser for either buses or cars. So that's for the refueling stations. Let me zoom out again. So that's an interesting number going up, and in fact we expect it only to increase further, especially given also the recent AFIR regulation, who is mandating refueling stations to be installed every 200 kilometers. So that's an outlook that we could have. If I now want to take a look at the actual data set, I have here the possibility to download it. So here it's downloading. I can get a spreadsheet which is opening now on my computer. I hope you can also see it. And then it shows how the data set looks like. You see all the information that was captured in the dashboard can be consulted here as well. So just that as an example to download a data set. So let's move on and share a couple of more dashboards. So on end use, we have hydrogen demand as well as fuel cell deployment for electric vehicles. Hydrogen demand is an interesting one, but I'll park that for a second because we'll be discussing with Gregor Spavelek from Hydrogen Europe in a bit. But let's take a look into the fuel cell electric vehicles. So I'll just glimpse over it quickly, but this is basically the deployment of fuel cell electric vehicles. You see that 1,500, a bit over that number, is actually registered in 2022. And we can also see some specifics on a country-by-country basis. For example, in Germany, we see a lot of fuel cell EV registrations, and we also see some mix or some, let's say, trucks and buses coming into the mix. The same for the Netherlands, as well as, for example, UK. There's a substantially larger or relatively larger mix of buses in that overall mix of registered EVs. So technology manufacturing. I would say this is a very important one. It was also alluded to by Mr. Stephen Jackson. We will need a deployment of a lot of technologies, a lot of clean hydrogen technologies, actually across the entire value chain, if we were to achieve the clean hydrogen abatement potential in terms of GHG and its contribution to decarbonization. If we take a look at the REPowerEU plan, it's clear that the ambitions are high. We are talking about 10 million tonnes of clean hydrogen, green hydrogen being produced locally in Europe, as well as 10 million tonnes being imported to Europe. To realize all of that, electrolyzer capacity and the manufacturing of the electrolyzer, where it all starts, is vital. So let's take a look into the electrolyzer dashboard. What we see here is electrolyzer capacity being either operational in production or, let's say, under construction, or for which a FID decision has been taken. And what it shows is that by the end of 2023, we could expect 5.7 gigawatt of electrolyzer capacity, manufacturing capacity being in place in Europe, which is actually an important increase, an 85% increase of what is reported as of May 23, the 3.1 gigawatts. And this is expected to increase further up until 7.7 gigawatts if we take a look at the electrolyzer capacity that is sort of confirmed. So very vital. If you take a look now at the split in technologies, which this dashboard allows to explore, we see that the split between alkaline and PEM is about 50-50%, and that as of 2025, also solid oxide manufacturing capacity is going to become in part of the mix, a technology that is currently being matured further. So that for electrolyzer manufacturing capacity, as said, quite an important one. What I mentioned earlier or have shown on hydrogen production considers all types of production capacities or production projects better. What we see here on production and consumption projects is specific to clean hydrogen production. It shows projects that are using electrolyzers or in the future using reforming plus CCS. And this is a deep dive that we can get here, which is actually an add-on on the earlier dashboards on hydrogen production that I've shown. What is interesting a feature here is also that we see the projects that are actually under construction and not only the ones that are in operation. It shows that overall there's at this moment 74 water electrolyzer hydrogen production projects totaling about almost 200 megawatts. A further 39 projects are currently under constructions and are expected to have a significant increase up to an additional 1.2 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity installed. And that is, of course, significant and important. If we then take a look at the expected output of all those projects by 2025, and that's 27 kilotons. I don't know if you recall the number that I showed earlier in the hydrogen production dashboard. That was about 29 kilotons. So that is an important increase. So we're increasing about tenfold what we are producing today. That's significant. However, it's only 2% of what is needed for the realization of the REPowerEU plan. So it's a good progress, and we see it's going up with orders of magnitude, so that is fantastic, but still some work to do also. If we then take a look at the individual projects, for example, by increasing a bit the production capacity, it shows that the projects in operations, there's actually only one with a capacity above 16 megawatt in this case. So the capacity is 20 megawatts in Spain. And then what is also an interesting evolution is that we see the project under construction also being increased in capacity. And the largest project in construction in terms of the capacity is this one in Sweden for or linked to the production of green steel. So let's go out of this dashboard and continue our journey. What else? So we have policies and standards, research and innovation, financial tools. For example, Ms. Rosalinde van der Vlies mentioned on the different funding mechanisms, the European Hydrogen Bank, these kind of things, you will be able to find them here. But given that we also want to let you explore a bit, I will show two more dashboards here and then leave it up to you to explore these. So for policies and standards, already mentioned as well, so EU policies, you will find a full list here of updated policies, legislations for your consultation. So that's here and it's relatively straightforward. What I find quite interesting is, for example, the one on national policies and legislation, which is building on the national hydrogen strategies, or let's say a bit more the operationalization of that. So if I look at the national hydrogen strategies, so the webpage is loading. What we see here is a full overview of the national hydrogen strategies being either published in draft or where there's not a strategy yet. However, we see that there's quite a lot of coverage, let's say, if you look at hydrogen strategies. And then you will get a possibility to go into a specific strategy, take a look at the key indicators, find some further explanation of the strategy, as well as a link to the original document. But to complement that, let's take a look into the part or the website piece on national policies and legislation. So what you can find here is supporting or the frameworks that are put in place from a national perspective, which is also very interesting and I would say aligned with the ambition of the observatory to go into more detail, give detail also on a member state level. So what we can see here is, for example, they have a country filter. For example, let's start and we see that OPEX support next to CAPEX support will be quite important to bridge the value gap that we are seeing between supply and demand. So let's take a look at what OPEX support is available and where. If we search, the dashboard, let's say, reloads, and it shows, okay, for example, we see in Germany, Netherlands, UK, Spain, OPEX support being available. And then we can go into Achin. If I would be interested to put a project into place, what is my options in, let's say, Germany, in UK, in the Netherlands, and then you can compare those against each other. So we have now made a selection. I will reload it, and then we can actually get the details of each of the individual countries. We can take a deeper look. For example, here in the Netherlands, we find the details of the SDA++ grant scheme, but we can just as well take a look at what is in other member states available. Just as a last example for this dashboard, we also see support schemes in, for example, mobility. We see that actually the coverage is quite broad in this regard. And in the same way as I did it earlier, you can click open and go into the details of what is actually there. So let's continue. As the last, let's say, two parts that I want to show before we go and have the discussion with our external speakers. I would like to show you, on one hand, some scenarios for future hydrogen demand, which we explicitly put here on the right-hand side to make sure that this is indeed something that can be used more as a tool and is also a bit more looking forward by definition. And that's what you see here. So here you find quite a complete selection of various studies and analysis that make projections on hydrogen. What you can do is, for example, change the timeline or zoom in on an individual sector. Let's take a look at what is expected in the industry in 2030, for example, looking at various studies, and that is actually giving you a full overview of what is there and what could potentially be expected. All of this subject to many assumptions, obviously. You also find some statistical analysis, but further on the assumptions, you can find them here. Again, you can download them and take a look at those. So, for example, if I take a look, so you can here find all the links to the studies, and here is the full documentation, or at least of the key assumptions that each study takes. Okay, let's continue. So the last thing that I would like to show here is actually the levelized cost of hydrogen calculator. Levelized cost of hydrogen calculator, we're quite excited to have that tool as well. The tool allows to make an assessment of what hydrogen production cost would be in function of a set of parameters and options, which you can explore and tailor in the calculator itself. So for example, here we see an electrolyzer unit specified with a capex, energy consumption, some other parameters on the stack durability, degradation, and so on and so forth, but also the electricity source, which you can select by also changing the country or the type of electricity source indeed that you would use. For example, here we have Germany and wholesale price. What then you see here is what it actually would cost and the breakdown of those costs by means of a waterfall graph that are contributing to that cost. For example, electricity and taxes are here, in this case, the largest contributor. We will go into the discussion with Hydrogen Europe on country comparison, but let's now take, well, maybe one more example. For example, if I look at Spain and if I select PV, then the dashboards, or let's say the calculator better, updates, and it shows actually an updated cost that we would see for today. It's not a projection, it's rather today based on, as it's described here, these assumptions and the state of the art in terms of what's available in terms of technologies. What you can also do is say, I would like to make the calculation for a larger power capacity, make changes into the operating hours that you envisage, and then you can do that, and you can go to the user-specified values, and then the calculator takes these ones and uses this in the calculation. So now it's using the one that were originally there, but you can override those. Of course, that's what it's for. So this, well, let's say, sort of brings me to the end of the high-level overview. Maybe just interesting to note that next to the individual calculators, we'll also make reports available, as also Ms. Mirela Anastasia mentioned, where you have different reports that are available on an annual basis and that are getting updated, so yearly, but we make the publication spread throughout the year. So we have an industry report, an industry for policymakers, but also research and academia, and a focus report. Actually, the first focus report, we intend to cover the hydrogen calculator in that report. But there are things to look forward to in the coming months and even year to follow. What I would like to do now is, well, actually introduce the guests that we have here with us. So it's, well, I have made an attempt to at least show you some teaser, a high-level overview, what's available, some high-level insights that you could get, and also invite you, of course, to explore them further. But indeed, let's enter into a conversation with some key stakeholders that we have here with us to share their perspective on the observatory. So we are joined by the International Energy Agency, Hydrogen Europe, as well as representation from academia. Our first guest is Dr. José Bermúdez from the IEA. José, thanks a lot for being here with us. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much, Stijn. First of all, thanks a lot for the invitation and for having the possibility to be here today in such an important day for hydrogen in Europe. Really happy to see the launch of the observatory and all the new amazing features that it's having. So as you say, my name is José Bermúdez. I work at the International Energy Agency, where I coordinate the work that we do in the agency in terms of hydrogen technologies, policies, and markets, and I'm also one of the coordinators of the Clean Energy Ministerial Hydrogen Initiative, which is a platform of collaboration for more than 20 governments aiming to accelerate the deployment of the uptake of hydrogen technologies across all the economy.
Excellent, thank you, José. As I mentioned, and indeed, you and the IEA is highly involved in the hydrogen space. Could you please elaborate a bit on the hydrogen activities?
Yeah, sure. Just as a very brief introduction for those people that may be not so familiarized with the agency, we are an international organization based in Paris, part of the OECD framework, and we were founded in 1974. And practically since the beginning of the work of the IEA, we have been working on hydrogen. So as we say in the slide, the objective of the IEA is to provide analysis, to prepare analysis, develop analysis to recommend policies to our member governments and to industry to enhance the reliability, affordability, and sustainability of our energy system. And of course, hydrogen is an important part of this sustainability and affordability and reliability of the energy system. So we have been working practically since the beginning of the IEA on hydrogen technologies. Right 3 years after the foundation, we created the Hydrogen Implementation Agreement that now is more known as the Hydrogen Technology Collaboration Program, which is a platform for enhancing cooperation internationally in the development of hydrogen technology, so innovation and research of hydrogen technologies. But particularly since 2019, we have reinforced a lot our work as the International Energy Agency on hydrogen. So in 2019, we received a request of the Japanese government to develop a report, which is called the Future of Hydrogen Report, which helped in informing the negotiations of Japanese G20 presidency. And after that, we created a whole team that is now working on hydrogen, and which generates very regular outputs on hydrogen. So as you can see in the slide, probably the most important one is our Global Hydrogen Review. We just published the very latest version of this report last Friday. And this is an annual report that we published as part of our work for the Clean Energy Ministerial Hydrogen Initiative, tracking developments globally on hydrogen in terms of production, demand, technology development, policies, investments, and different special focuses. This year was, for example, on the creation of demand for low-emission hydrogen. And we have other annual tracking effort, which is our Tracking Clean Energy Progress report, which tracks the progress that is happening on more than 40 different technologies that we consider fundamental for the clean energy transition. As part of this work, of course, we have a regular collection of data, and I think we will speak a bit more about the importance of the European Hydrogen Observatory for this. And we also regularly update our decarbonization scenarios, and which is the role that hydrogen can play in these scenarios. Also, we are co-authors with the International Agency for Renewable Energy and the UN high-level climate champions of the Breakthrough Agenda report, which is a report that tracks international cooperation on different breakthrough sectors, one of which is hydrogen. And we regularly have certain ad hoc reports for that our member governments ask for. I already mentioned the Future of Hydrogen for the G20 presidency of Japan in 2019, but we also published another report which is called Hydrogen in a Circular Carbon Economy for the Saudi Arabia presidency of G20. And just this year for the Japanese G7 presidency, we published a report called Towards Hydrogen Definitions based on their emissions intensity, to try to help governments on the aspects of hydrogen certification and market interoperability. And we also released other analytical outputs. For example, we have a hydrogen production projects database that has been very well received among policymakers, industry, or investors, because it helps them to track how many projects have been announced, have actually reaching FIDs globally on the production of hydrogen from clean electricity, from fossil fuels with CCS, or from biomass. And we have other tools like a Clean Energy Technology Guide, where it includes more than 800 technologies, many of which are hydrogen related, or a projects database for demonstration projects. So we have many different tools that we made available to the public with information on hydrogen technologies and their development.
Yeah. Great overview, Jose. What is actually the benefit for you if you look at the Observatory as a main collection of data and insights for the European hydrogen sector? Can you discuss a bit on the collaboration with the joint undertaking and the Observatory?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you can see in my previous slide, the IEA is a data-driven organization. So everything that we do is based on data and robust and accurate and transparent data. So good quality data is fundamental for us. And this is one of the big challenges that people that works on hydrogen today are facing. No, so something that we have been facing lately is that there is very limited data available on hydrogen in general today, and in most cases this comes from estimates, not from, for example, official statistics, as it happens with energy products like electricity or fuels. In addition, on these estimates, in many occasions we see that there are different boundaries used to report this data. And this is not always clear on the source that you can visit to get this data. No? So let me give you an example that we are facing very often, even when we ask for data our member governments. In certain occasions, when they quote their hydrogen demand, they include, for example, hydrogen that is produced as a byproduct in steelworks and then used for heat and power generation, where in other cases they don't report that. So this is one clear example of how difficult sometimes it gets good data about hydrogen. And the problem is that this situation leads to conflicting numbers, to conflicting analysis, and then to conflicting messages, depending on which is the source of information that we visit. And then, of course, this has consequences. First of all, there is confusion in many cases on what is the real status of hydrogen. No? So it's not possible to get completely aligned the views, and then researchers that try to address the situation of hydrogen, or analysts or policymakers that have to take decisions on what to do on policies to support the adoption of hydrogen don't have a clear visibility of what's the current status quo of hydrogen. This, of course, makes very difficult to make decisions. No, so both on the industry side or on the policy side, when decision makers have to take a decision what to do, how to support hydrogen, which strategy to follow. If they don't have the right information, it's very unlikely that they are going to take the right decision, or it's just a nature of pure coincidence. No? And this is not the way of taking decisions. And this also ends up creating a situation of lack of trust. In many cases, the general public or the civil society has a lot of doubts with hydrogen. They are not really familiarized with hydrogen, and when they don't have good information available, it's very difficult to build trust. So this is why we think that initiatives like the European Hydrogen Observatory are so important, because we think that these kind of tools can simultaneously address some, if not most, of the challenges that I have just mentioned. So we are really supportive of this type of one-stop shops that can make data available to policymakers, to industry, to academia, and to the general public. There are still, of course, some challenges, and I'm sure that you will face some of these challenges, or you face them on the relaunch. You will keep facing them on the upcoming updates, which is transparency of data. This is not among the best features yet today on the hydrogen industry. And this is really important if we want to gain confidence among the potential users of this data, and again among the general public that which their daily lives are probably going to be affected by the adoption of hydrogen. And another example is dealing with lack of reliable sources of information at national level. I'm sure that you have faced these problems same as we do on a more global level. which makes sometimes very difficult to make reliable aggregates. And then in terms of our collaboration, we are really looking forward to work as close as possible with the European Hydrogen Observatory as what we think is going to be the new reference for data on hydrogen across all Europe. And we have already take a first step. We are going to release our projects database an update of our projects database just in a couple of weeks. And the European Hydrogen Observatory has provided a very reliable input and really valuable input that we are really grateful. And this also helped to build some of the analysis that we have done on the Global Hydrogen Review that we just published last week. So as I said, we think that the European Hydrogen Observatory can be really a game changer on the visibility of hydrogen and the reliability of data. And we are really looking forward to keep taking steps beyond this first step of the collaboration in the project database to ensure that the information that we made available to the public is as strong and as accurate as possible.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jose, for being here with us and sharing those insights. It's great to hear the collaboration, let's say, confirmed, and we look forward to continue it. I think it's indeed mentioned by many of the speakers already, reliability of the data coming back all the time, but also on a global perspective. And we're happy to make our inputs, let's say, from the European level. Our second guest is Gregors Pavlik from Hydrogen Europe. So Hydrogen Europe is a very important data provider, but providing data is not straightforward. Collecting it and making sure it's complete and reliable is a complex exercise. Gregors, as the head of or director of intelligence, could you please introduce yourself and give us a glimpse into the data collection process, maybe some challenges that you incur?
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. So indeed, my name is Grzegorz Pawlik. You already introduced me, and Stephen introduced Hydrogen Europe. So I maybe leave the introduction really short. Maybe I just mentioned that in this particular project, my role is just one of the team members, and the actual project manager deserves most of the credit for Hydrogen Europe's work. This project, Matusz Muron, is today on well-deserved holiday break. So hopefully I can do a good job in his stead. But when you mention the data collection and the challenges there, yeah, I think a lot of what has already been mentioned by Mr. Miguel from EIA. I mean, the lack of transparency is a real issue. That is, of course, not because the industry has something to hide and doesn't want to, disclose the data. It's just the structure of the market is such that a huge part of the hydrogen market is something what we call captive production, where an ammonia plant or refinery just produce the hydrogen for their own purposes and then immediately use it afterwards to produce ammonia or in the refining process. And that amount of hydrogen production isn't reported anywhere, right? And Eurostat doesn't have the data, national governments do not have the data, and that then becomes a problem at some point to really try to pinpoint the actual amount of hydrogen that is being used in industry. The way we are dealing with that currently is that we have tried to gather a database of all the hydrogen producing plants and hydrogen consuming plants in Europe and try to estimate for each and every single one based on various proxy indicators, which obviously vary sector by sector, what can be the amount of hydrogen that we expect that plant to use based on, for example, the amount of ammonia which was produced, which is reported to Eurostat, for example, right? So there is not a single challenge. The challenges vary sector by sector, but indeed the lack of transparency is the key one. We know that Eurostat is working on improving the data collection. They're preparing a new form that will ask also national governments to track hydrogen production data a bit more closely. So hopefully in the years to come, we'll have a bit more reliable data to fall back on to double check what we have estimated. But currently we need to deal with what we have. Here maybe what I can mention is that obviously as a hydrogen industry association, as Hydrogen Europe, we do have a bit of a privileged position, is that most of the hydrogen producers and hydrogen users in Europe are already members of ours. So we do not stop only at trying to estimate the production and consumption volumes. Once we do that, we also validate or try to validate all those numbers with our members. And that somehow gives us a little bit more confidence that the values that you will see on the observatory are actually, well, they will never be 100% correct, but are correct enough, let's put it this way.
Clear. Thank you, Gregor. I think it's a good testimonial to also see that there's a lot of work behind all of this and ensuring the collection and also the validation of that data. Gregor, we have foreseen to look into two more dashboards together with you. The first one is on the state of play from a hydrogen demand perspective. So I propose that we switch back to the observatory and I'll bring up the dashboard. I hope it is also visible from your end. Yes. Please, over to you to share some of your comments or insights.
Yes, I mean, obviously, I won't go into the obvious details, like the German is the biggest market, that's all everyone can see. But I think what might be important, especially for this year, which is a bit of a special one, an outlier. First, when you look at the overall volume, and you would like to, you might remember what was reported in the previous observatory for 2020, 2021. Immediately, you might notice that the hydrogen consumption levels have dropped quite significantly in Europe. It's close to 8-9% of drop. It was in 2020. It was slightly more than 9 million tons. So our estimate now it's 8.2 million tons. So it's a significant drop. And the reason for it is obviously the huge changes on the energy markets that are a result of the invasion in Ukraine from Russia. And that has obviously impacted the natural gas prices, and natural gas via the steam methane reforming is the biggest feedstock that is currently, or the most important feedstock that is currently used to produce hydrogen. So that spike in natural gas prices has had a huge impact on hydrogen markets currently, because that's the feedstock that we use. But what is interesting is that not all hydrogen using or producing sectors were impacted in the same way. And here, the biggest outlier is the refining sector, which already has been the biggest sector using the most of hydrogen. But in that sector, we actually have seen an increase of hydrogen consumption. And that is also because of the war, that we have banned some of the petroleum products coming from Russia, diesel, gasoline, and actually the volume of refining operations that were being done in Europe has actually increased a bit. So this is the one sector where we have seen some increase in consumption, but it's also a sector where the impact of high natural gas prices was not as profound as on the other sectors, because the refineries also can always fall back on refinery of gases to use instead of natural gas or some LPG, for example, to play a little bit with the feedstock to make the impact of high natural gas prices a little bit less felt. And also the cost of hydrogen is not as profound in the cost of overall cost of refinery as it is, for example, in an ammonia plant. So that might explain why in the refinery, particularly, the demand has grown a little bit. But on the other end of the spectrum is ammonia industry, for which we have seen a 1/3 of decrease, so 32% of a drop in hydrogen consumption in 2022 compared to 2020. And again, the reason is the same: high natural gas prices. But in this case, there is just no easy way to escape the impact of those, and many plants have even stopped production in Europe in 2022. So those two elements combined have contributed to the fact that indeed 2022 saw a huge, well, I mean not a huge, but important drop in hydrogen consumption in Europe. We'll obviously have to see how long-lasting that effect is. And in 2023, as the natural gas prices have started to drop again, we would expect a bit of a correction in the other direction. So again, increase of hydrogen demand in the ammonia methanol businesses. It is hard to tell whether the correction will be big enough to make up for the losses in 2022. But I would indeed expect again an increase in hydrogen demand in industry in Europe in 2023.
Clear, Gregors. Thanks for sharing those dynamics. That's very interesting. I would say linked to that, we have the LCOH, the calculator on one hand, but also on a country-specific level, we have that overview. So let's take a look into that one. Oops. So here we go. So we have the dashboard as well as a slide with some further details. But let's first take a quick look into the dashboards, Gregors.
Yeah, well, yes, indeed, this is closely related, as I mentioned, to the demand side, because those prices really are drivers. What you see on this particular slide is the estimated cost of renewable hydrogen or grid hydrogen connection. Grid hydrogen, production cost of hydrogen produced via electricity supplied by the grid. This does not mean that the electricity is renewable by any means. We just assume the country mix in every country here for that purpose. But you can see first the costs are really high because again the natural gas prices went up and the electricity prices went up quite significantly with it in 2022. So by extension, also cost of producing hydrogen from electricity taken from the grid also went up quite significantly. But what you can also see is a couple of countries that are maybe interesting is Bulgaria, Greece, and Portugal, for example, where you can see negative impact of taxes, and that's also a consequence of the a little bit outlier year in 2022. Is that certain countries have introduced measures, short-term measures, so obviously we'll see how short-term they are, but in 2022 there were in place so measures trying to reduce or alleviate a little bit the impact of high electricity prices by tax exemptions. Right? So in some cases that impact has been quite significant, but still there is no escaping the fact that 2022 was, well, the first year since we are starting our analysis where the costs of hydrogen production actually increased. And they increased quite significantly because of the cost of electricity production. When we would look at renewable hydrogen production costs specifically, there the dynamic is a little bit different. The cost of renewables, well, they have increased a little bit because of high inflation, but the impact there is not as significant. The problem there is maybe the fact that because of the wholesale electricity prices are so high, it is becoming a challenge to sign a PPA with a renewable energy provider at LCOE cost level, because if the prices on the wholesale electricity market are 8-10 times higher than LCOE for renewables, then it is a hard sell to convince to sign a long-term PPA at much lower prices, even though the LCOE for renewable electricity has not moved as much upwards as some other cost element.
Great.
But yeah.
No, clear, Gregors. I propose that in the meantime we bring up the slides that you also prepared, and then you maybe if you can continue from there. Yeah.
This slide is kind of combining all the different methods that we estimate the cost. So maybe one thing that I should mention is that the cost that you see level as cost of hydrogen, those are not statistical costs. Those are our estimates based on various different proxy indicators about what are the actual costs of production of hydrogen, and not the costs reported by anyone to Eurostat or whatever. And what you can see here is basically the spread of various production cost levels in various member states. The minimum and maximum for the blue and grey hydrogen, that's basically the difference between the natural gas costs in some countries. In some countries, you wouldn't even find any data because there is no gas market in Malta, for example. But in those countries that there is market for, the differences, the price levels for natural gas can be quite significantly different. And also the grid costs and all that's included. So you see it as quite a big spread. What's interesting is that when you look at the minimum, you can see that the minimum renewable hydrogen production costs are already somehow lower than the green and blue hydrogen production costs. Although first, that's an outlier. It's only in a really limited amount of countries. It's more of an exception than a rule still. And more importantly, I think, is that the grey and blue hydrogen production costs, as I mentioned, those are really impacted by the high natural gas prices that we saw in 2022, and I would expect those to fall back. Historically, for those that might not know, the grey hydrogen production costs were below the 2 euros per kilogram level. And that's still the target that we should keep in mind, that we need to get close to that with renewable hydrogen. The fact that we are today somehow competitive with this extremely expensive grey and blue hydrogen production costs shouldn't be a reason to celebrate yet, for sure.
Yeah, very clear.
Yeah.
So it's only a short-term, let's say, thing that we are seeing here. It's good for green hydrogen production, but on the long term, we also need that price to go down, right?
Yes, that's for sure. Well, certainly, I mean, both, when you look at the grey, blue and grid electricity-based hydrogen, all of those are an outlier in 2022. All of those I would expect to fall down significantly. The movement in green hydrogen production costs were not as profound. Year to year, the levelized cost of renewable electricity has not moved that much. Capex of electrolyzers year to year, even though we see a downward trajectory, it doesn't change that much year to year. So those are still on a somehow downward trajectory, but the downward trajectory is relatively small. But hopefully, by 2030, we might get there, but we are still a bit far, some distance away from long-term cost competitiveness with grey and blue hydrogen.
Thank you, Gregors. So a lot of the data sets, including the one that we are looking at right now, are indeed provided by Hydrogen Europe, for which we're very thankful of that collaboration. But we also mentioned, okay, this is now the launch, and we also see other things happening going forward, other data sets potentially coming in. Could you give us a glimpse on what is on the horizon from your perspective?
Yes, for sure. So already, I think the blue and grey hydrogen production cost, this is already new, because in the previous observatory, we only had the grid-based hydrogen and renewable hydrogen. So that's already new. But what we would like to go further is, as I mentioned, those are not real costs. Those are based on estimates. And some estimates, like wholesale electricity costs or renewable electricity costs, this is something that we can relatively reliably gather from available market conditions, where we still see some lack of transparency and uncertainties about the costs of electrolyzers and the cost of the capex of the entire investment. And that's something that we plan to, let's say, invest further resources into getting that right. For now, we are using, for example, also EIA Global Hydrogen Review data on what are the capex data for electrolysis. But what we'd like to do now is to indeed try to gather real data from those projects that are already operational or under construction, because we are getting more and more of those projects. And that gives us an opportunity to move away a little bit from relying solely on modeling, but starting to rely more and more on actual data that's being gathered and experienced by project developers. So that's our next step, indeed, to try to establish a good connection and good contacts with electrolyzer producers and also project promoters, right? Because if you only would focus on electrolyzer manufacturers, that would only give us, let's say, maybe more reliable information about what are the electrolyzer sales prices, but we still need to know what are the EPC costs, what are the grid connection costs, and all of that EPC other elements. that go into total project development cost. And that's indeed our next step, to try to gather together with our members, because as I mentioned, that is our big advantage, that we have those project promoters, we have those consumers of hydrogen in our membership group, and we plan to use that and leverage that to gather that data, and that would then allow us also to make that levelized cost of hydrogen estimation more and more reliable going forward. And then maybe the last point is that we also plan to develop something like break-even point analysis for the key applications. So now we are looking at the demand, the existing demand, and we are looking at production costs. What I think is missing is to see at what level the production costs need to be for renewable hydrogen to actually be a viable option for those various demand sectors. And that's what the break-even price analysis is supposed to deliver once we finish that. And those are I think, the main 3 additions in the coming updates.
Thank you so much, Gregors. We look forward. As our third and final guest, we have 2 professors. On one hand, Professor Anke Hage from the Technical University of Denmark, and on the other hand, Professor Alberto Abanades from the Polytechnical University of Madrid. Could you please introduce yourselves and more specifically share some details on the hydrogen research you're involved in? Maybe Anke?
Yes. Hello, so my name is Anke Hagen. I'm a professor at the Technical University of Denmark, and I have the last 20 years had my research activities in the field of high temperature fuels and electrolyzer cells. My main research interest here is diagnostics and lifetime. And in addition to my research, I'm responsible for continuing education at our department.
Thank you, Anke. Alberto?
Yes, yes, I'm Alberto Abanades. I'm a professor of the Technical University of Madrid. I'm in the Department of Energy Engineering of the School of Industrial Engineers here in the UPM. My main research activity from more than 15 years to now is regarding hydrocarbon splitting into solid carbon and hydrogen. So it's not in the observatory, but let's see if in the future is there. So that's why we do the research. And also responsible of some academic activities related to energy and in particular also to hydrogen.
Thank you. Anke, education, research and innovation and everybody that's behind it, the educated people, both from, let's say, all levels of education are key for scaling the clean hydrogen economy. Can you share some insights, how you experience this in the field?
Yes, maybe I can start with it. I had the pleasure to follow the development of the joint undertaking over the past many years in respect to being actively involved in a number of projects, also coordinating them. And it was a great pleasure to see how we successfully collaborated with industry, between industry and research, that has actually led to a significant progress of fuel cell and hydrogen technologies financed by the European Commission. And in line with this technological progress, of course, there come new challenges, and that is education on all levels. And here we have, of course, we have the student education. On the other hand, we also need to have education on a much broader level. We need to have reskilling of the workforce. We have to educate also, let's say, the society in a way with the new green technologies in order to be able to succeed. And here I see a big need and also a chance for the observatory.
Thank you, Anke. Alberto, anything to add?
Yes, I fully agree with Anke respect to the need of education for every level in the society, from university, from technicians, operators, upskilling and reskilling of people, because it's supposed to be, we're going to need about maybe 150,000, 200,000 people to really to try to implement the hydrogen economy in Europe. and this economy is implemented, and these technologies are implemented by people. So we need to produce a lot of people form in the hydrogen field. That also is very important for the public opinion, because at the end, also the public has to understand which are the challenges, which are the benefits, and of the implementation of the hydrogen economy. So this is really a chance, and also allows for the mobility. This good education inside Europe allows for a mobility of people inside Europe to really adapt to the situation of each country as a whole, as Europe as a whole.
Yeah, all right, that's clear. I propose that we have a quick view on the observatory while we continue the discussion. So the observatory indeed has some specific materials on education programs and training materials. So let's take a quick look. So on one hand, if we take a look at maybe starting with the training programs, what you can see here is really quite a full overview of training programs that are available. And maybe just to show you an example, so imagine now that I finished my bachelor degree and I would like to enter into a master. I'm interested in that, so I'll refine, and then okay, I can zoom in. Let's say that I'm from the Paris area, or I'm interested to do my master's over there. You can, for example, click and say, here's a master on energy that's available, linked to hydrogen. You can find some subtopics, and also go to the actual training, which then it will load, where you can take a further look and let's say register yourself. Next to that, we also have these education materials, which let's say that you have done your bachelor, and then over the summer you want to prepare a bit for your master. You can also take a look into those. For example, here you have different, let's say the language, different filters, language, focus, level of education. For example, I will select these to take a look into, and then I can let it refine. The observatory allows to look into different materials that are actually already available. So if I do that, I can go here and actually also have the link to those materials, voila, really at the fingertips. So that is quite a nice feature. So at least some good basic features. So we wanted to show you that, so at least you know that these things are available on the observatory, mainly provided by Hydrogen Europe Research. But indeed, let's continue the discussion. So Anke, can you please share your perspective on the observatory, why you believe it's important, how it can contribute to the things that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, of course, you showed today there are many dimensions in this observatory. And maybe I would like to draw the attention to the final point, or last point you showed, that is this education. Because here we now see a huge demand on all levels to carry out education. And as a Danish example, Power-to-X is everywhere nowadays. However, nobody really, or not many people know what it is. So there is a huge demand and need to educate, for example, policymakers, municipalities, the workforce, apart from student education, of course. And this is something that one country cannot do alone. And here I hope that we can draw from the observatory and start collaborations across the European countries. There are always a lot of initiatives, projects that are focused on technology, on hydrogen, on electrolysis, on fuel cells. And the other side, the education, I think, is equally important. And there I hope we can use the observatory to fulfill the demand that is now and here, because now decisions are made on, for example, what technologies to implement on the municipality level, or in smaller geographical locations. So in that respect, I really hope that the observatory will support us, and we are happy to contribute, because we actually also do a lot of effort in this continued education, reskilling, and etc.
Yeah, thank you, Anke, and also appreciate it for the contributions that you've already made. Alberto, could you, as a last question, maybe share what would be on your wish list for the observatory? Anything that you would like to see in addition to what is there?
Yes, well, I have gone through the observatory, in particular for the education part, and I think it's really challenging. So there are plenty of information there for every level of education, so that's very good. On the other hand, also there are some materials inside, so that this is another challenge: how to select and choose the material to be present in the observatory, because at the end this will be the window to the wall of the technology. And between my wish list, of course, there is a frequent update of the contents of the observatory, and also to put the real effort, not the real, a good effort in the question of the languages of the information that is provided, because at the end, as Anke said, there will be many policymakers or people at the municipality in very different countries. With some of them, for instance, they don't speak English or they don't speak languages. And then for them, it could be very important to have access to given information, especially the basics one. So this is quite important. This is one of them. And of course, my wish list, my main wish, is that the observatory could be taken as a reference worldwide for hydrogen and in general, like for instance happens with other sites, like the one for instance for solar bases, for the solar technology, for thermal solar technology, or for other technologies. So it could be very interesting to have a reference, not only Europe but also elsewhere, about the technology in the world.
Okay, cool. But so I hear that we are already on a good way, and I'm also happy to have you as ambassadors for the observatory. Yeah. So I would like to now wrap up the discussion with the speakers and that intervention. Thanks a lot for each and every of them. And I will hand over to Maria, who will close the walkthrough of the observatory. Maria,
Hi.
please.
Yeah, thanks. So we can go back to the website just for some final remarks. Just following this discussion, I would just like to share with you the directory page that you'll be able to find on websites, where you can explore and connect with key players shaping the hydrogen landscape in Europe. Here you can find them represented in the map and in a list and sort for the country of your interest. If, however, you are an organization working in hydrogen-related issues and want to be listed here, you'll find a form at the top of this page, and you'll be represented among this network as well. Furthermore, if we move over to the datasets page that you can find under Tools and Reports section, our datasets page is your gateway to hydrogen-related raw data that you've just seen. Here you can access a diverse collection of datasets made available through the European Hydrogen Observatory. These datasets are offered in a downloadable format, as we've seen, and encompass a wide range of topics and research areas within the hydrogen domain. You'll find them all centralized on this page. And this datasets page is a tool that can empower you as a researcher, as an analyst, or industry professional, allowing you to download datasets directly in the website. Finally, going back to the homepage, as you delve into the world of hydrogen data, I would urge you not to miss out on the latest updates, insights, and news. And you can subscribe to our newsletter right here from the homepage. And you can stay informed. I'll invite you to join our community of hydrogen enthusiasts and professionals and be among the first to receive valuable insights and updates directly in your inbox just by inserting your email here. And as we continue to explore our homepage, don't miss the dedicated media section. Here you can find the latest curated news and upcoming events from the dynamic world of hydrogen. You can stay connected with the pulse of hydrogen industry. Either it's breaking news, insightful articles, or exciting upcoming events. So as we conclude this immersive journey through the European Hydrogen Observatory website, I want to express our sincere gratitude for joining us today in exploring the limitless potential of hydrogen as a transformative energy source. And as I finish my intervention and pass it over to the studio again, I would just ask you to allow me to highlight that this website that we just explored was brought to you with the support of the European Hydrogen Observatory partners and contributors. If you scroll a little bit down, you can see that we have a Powered By section where you can see the partners and contributions. And I would like to thank them for transforming the energy landscape one hydrogen molecule at a time. Back to you, Stijn.
Thanks a lot, Maria. Great. Well, over to Eline, actually, to make some closing remarks, but also we have some questions potentially to take a look at.
Let's have a look at the questions, and should there be any more questions, please feel free to use the chat function for that. But maybe, Stijn, one of the first questions that we have through the chat is how often would the Observatory release reports with data? You mentioned that their reports will be published, but how often will we release those reports?
Yeah, sure, Eline. So the idea is indeed to make some reports that make even more insights and analysis of the available data. We intend to, as I already mentioned briefly, intend to actually have 4 key reports throughout the year. So each three to, let's say, 4 months, depending a bit, you can expect a new report. The first report will be really on the industry, the market, and how it's evolving. The second report will be more towards policy and what's going on there. In fact, we have a timeline for the first report around November, and then the second one, well, that will depend, but ideally also around that period that we can launch it together with the Hydrogen Week. That is at least our ambition. And then we have in the, let's say, the next calendar year, 2 more reports. Before the summer, we would like to have a report on research and academia. And then in between that, we would like to have a focus report, which will be a changing topic. And this year, as I mentioned, would be on the LCOH calculator. So in that, we'll have an annual cadence that people can expect those reports to be published.
Excellent. And then maybe a second question was on the data. How often will we update the data, and how will we make those available?
Yeah, sure. So in general, you could expect that each data set will be updated annually. For some data sets, there can be a more frequent update. And for these, we expect, for example, a data set released in June, to update maybe once more in December. But that's in general the cadence of updating the data sets.
And then a final question, Stijn, to you. We capture projects, but do we also capture projects that just have been announced? You listed that we look mainly at projects that are realized or with a final investment decision. What about the announced projects?
Yeah, so those are not in scope. We believe that really the observatory's focus is on things that are really, let's say, sure. So indeed, operational, in production, or in construction, or of which the FID stage has passed. So indeed, as the global hydrogen review of the IEA has also shown, is that not a lot of those projects have already passed that stage, but there's so much uncertainty and speculation about those other announcements that we feel it's better to focus in this context on such projects.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Stijn, for your answers. And then I suggest that we wrap this up with, and allow me to give maybe some key takeaways that I have taken away from this session. I think the launch is really supported by a lot of members, and again, my sincere gratitude for everybody who contributed. But of course, we rely on the users to put all that data to use. I think we covered a lot on the importance of hydrogen, both on decarbonization of the European industry, but also on the security of our energy supply. The race is on. This has been said already, but the competition between geographies, but also between companies, is ongoing. But we still have a lot of work to do. We need to define low carbon, for example. The infrastructure needs to be created to match supply and demand. There is an increased need for the manufacturing of fuel cells and electrolyzers. We need to boost investments, that's for sure, but also linking back to the conversation we just had with both Anke and Alberto on educating both society, but also the new skills of the future need to be boosted. So that's definitely also important. And in such, collaboration is key. What we also learned is that knowledge is power. We have now the European Hydrogen Observatory providing you with data. The insights that you will gain from that are instrumental to science-based policy making. It informs business models, But of course, we also know the caveats already in terms of making sure that we update those data and that we need transparency both on the data but also underlying assumptions, which may vary still. And that leaves me to a call to action to all of you, dear guests. First and foremost, if you have access to data, then please be a contributor to the European Hydrogen Observatory. The power of data is only as powerful if we have sufficient, reliable and accessible data. So please help us share your data. It will also help you share the data with a wider audience and be put to use by the hydrogen value chain. So please reach out to the Clean Hydrogen Partnership in this respect. Secondly, be a user of the data. Data is made available, and should you have any recommendations or suggestions on content, visualizations, please also, we are very happy to receive your feedback and reach out to us. We also invite you, you already saw it, Maria demonstrated the directory. Please also check whether your organization is already mentioned in that directory as part of the hydrogen value chain. And if not, then please fill out the questionnaire and complete the information so we can integrate it in the dataset. And then finally, let's put that data and information available to use and help boost the hydrogen economy, because it's part of a broader ambition, as said, to create a viable and decarbonized economy and planet for future generations to benefit from. And with that, I really sincerely want to thank you and our guests for attending this session. Have a great day today, and thank you very much.